But why would a nation mourn with music? Why would the people greet death with dance? This is not just about a man, it's about what his years in power did to millions. Hello, welcome to another amazing video. If this is the first time coming across this channel and you like what happens here, then go ahead and click on that subscribe button. Also turn on your post notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post videos on this channel. On this channel, we do not promote hate speech, we do not promote violence, we only bring credible information that will benefit members of the public. I want to use this opportunity, I want to use this medium to appreciate YouTube for creating such an amazing avenue that helps us bring information, credible information to the members of the public. Now, I came across this video that caught my attention. I want us to watch it together. As you watch, do not forget to like and share. He ruled twice, once with boots, once with ballots. And when the news broke that Muhammadu Buhari had died, a strange sound echoed across Nigeria: laughter. Not every death brings tears. Some bring memories of pain.
What we want is to actually stop stars. He said what he wants is to stop stars. He says he wants to stop stars.
Of hunger, of silence in the face of massacre, and some deaths to the oppressed feel like justice unpaid finally knocking. But why would a nation mourn with music? Why would the people greet death with dance? This is not just about a man, it's about what his years in power did to millions. Ex-President Muhammadu Buhari died on the 13th day of July 2025 in a London hospital in the United Kingdom. Many Nigerians regard his death as the end of a painful chapter, that his departure symbolizes relief from years of suffering. Now, someone will be out there wondering why people are happy that someone passed. This is strange. This kind of reaction mirrors what happened when notorious dictators died. Someone like General Sani Abacha in 1983. Nigerians then celebrated his death as liberation from oppression, just as they appear to be doing right now. Some persons have nice things to say about the late President Muhammadu Buhari.
I remember when he was head of state, when he took over, I was in primary 6, but to go to secondary school. And what we knew him for then, we call it why? War against indiscipline. You cannot even urinate anyhow. If you are caught, no matter who you are, you'll be flogged. I remember one of our mothers went to a nearby town called Omokekiti. She was in prison and the soldiers caught her. So then, before you do anything, you have to think twice. And he became popular because of his masses programs, whereby people were hoarding goods, food items. They looked for them, went to the warehouses, opened them, give free to the people. And that was why we saw that he kept on winning in the north. Yeah. Because most people enjoyed that program that time. The rich were the one that he was after, to make sure everybody live the same lifestyle, not ostentatious lifestyle that we now have today. So, Buhari history can never be erased in Nigeria. You see, he was more popular as a military head of state than when he became civilian president. Because what he was able to do as a military president with Fiat, he was unable to do it as a civilian president. Because of talk of rule of law. And that time, military does not believe in rule of law. They believe in dictatorship. So whatever he wants, he did it, and it happened immediately. And he was lucky. He was supported by somebody like himself, late General Tunde Diagwa. They were so close. If you remember, there's a particular person with Buhari that was so popular, they call him Tunde. He was named after the late Diagwa, so that is how close they were. So President Buhari, in fact, many people became what they are today in the last dispensation because of his popularity.
President Muhammadu Buhari has run his race. And life is dynamic because as long as you live, you are many things to many people. Some see him as a hero, but some see him otherwise. Those that he called a dot in the circle see him otherwise. Those that he said will treat in the language they understand see him otherwise. That led to the ban of Twitter in this country, because people had to report that tweet and it was deleted, and they felt, oh, how would they delete the tweet of a president? Those that were caught in the web of Decree 4 see him otherwise. Omar Diko see him otherwise. The likes of the politicians that were incarcerated after the 83 elections, about 84 when he got in, don't see him as a hero. But some will see him as a disciplined man, anti-corruption hero. But people will also talk about that legacy and say, but people around him were corrupt. So they talk about being above board like Caesar's wife, but people around you are being tried for corruption, also speaks volume. People he incarcerated for political vendetta. People he tried to terminate their lives. The judges in the dead of the night that were harassed, that everybody said, this is an assault on our judiciary, see him otherwise. But those that were close to him say, he's a father. They'd even stretch it and say, the father of the nation. Those that believed in him prior to 2015 felt once he got that mandate, he was going to set Nigeria right. But what heralded is 8 years. Deepening of division, pain, lack of economic gusto and verve, lack of that economic fecundity. And even this current government blames him for the problems they are in now. So with great power comes great responsibility. But do leaders that seek power understand the responsibility, or they just want to be president? Those that see him as a hero will say at least he allowed for fairness in the electoral process. But that argument is also quickly punctured by the fact that he didn't sign the electoral reforms leading up to the 2019 elections where he was going to participate in. But they will also say, at least under him, oppositions could win governorship election. In fact, some governor in the opposition went to thank him. Some will say things like, oh, the electricity bill. Some will also say he did infrastructure, at least if not because of him. We'll not have railway, will not have the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. I will not have other infrastructure like that. That he did more thread of roads than anybody. But while we also talk about the rail line, some will also argue Where was there a need for the Kanu Maradi line? President Buhari, when he ascended the throne in 2015, made the famous words that I am for everybody and for nobody. But some said he was actually for some people. He quoted Shakespeare saying there's a tide in the affairs of man. And we thought he had set the tone for the country he wanted to build. But today, like two sides of a coin, there are two sides to history of President Buhari. There will be those that will say, Veni, Vidi, Vici. But there will be those that will say, President Buhari, you caused pain, hurt, division, unfairness, and unkindness. Whatever part you take this morning, please remember something. We will all die. And what will be said after we're gone? I pay tribute to my king, our Sikuru Adetono, blessed memories. He did 6 decades there. He did his best to push forward and advance the cause of Ijebu land. Something dear to his heart in his last days was the Ijebu state. Some have argued, do we need more states? Some have said possibly. The argument they even make is that it's only Ijebu land out of the former divisions that didn't get a state in the end. But his legacies are there. I took out time to read his book, his autobiography. He talked about his triumphs, his trials and travails. But one thing you cannot take away from him was that he had a heart for his country. Others might say otherwise because there are two sides to history. But whatever it is, like John Donne says in the death of those both men today, is that the death of every man diminishes us. We will all die. What will be said about you?
Okay, it was Chilon of Pata in the 17th century, a 7th century philosopher, who said, do not speak ill of the dead. Also in Antigone by Sophocles, written in 431 BC, Antigone, the major lesson from Antigone is that, look, the dead must be honored. And then there is an Italian saying, Do mortuos nili nisi bonum. It also means essentially the same thing. So I begin with that theoretical concept. And also in Africa, people say, do not speak ill of the dead. When a man dies, it is assumed that all the sins of the dead are forgiven. However, while I quote that theoretical background, I have written editorials on Hastings Banda of Malawi, Idi Amin of Uganda, in the course of this career. Sani Abacha, where we said it as it is, because we had no other option. But I think in the case of President Muhammadu Buhari, who died yesterday, 1942, 17 December 1942, to 13 July 2025, it can be said that his legacy is of a mixed character. There are those who love him deeply. There are those who hate him as equally as possible. I think his career can be divided into 3 parts as follows. First, his military career. He was one of those young men, 70 of them, who joined the Nigerian Military Training Company in 1962, I think. He was 19 at the time. And then, of course, it was from there that he was part of the team that was sent to Mons Adeshot in England to be trained as officers. And then he returned as a second lieutenant. It was maybe 2021 at that time. And then, he became part of the Nigerian military. Now, key highlights of his career. During the counter coup of 1966, July counter coup, he was one of the officers who took part in that coup, removing Agunyi Nrusi from power. There are some people who will never forgive him for that. Now, When the Civil War began in 1967, he was in the 1st Division under the command of General Muhammad Shua, one of the finest officers ever to come from the northern part of Nigeria. From the 1st Division, he would later play a big role in the 2nd Division of the same military, and he was part of that team, the Civil War heroes who, well, kept Nigeria safe, kept Nigeria as one, as General Yakubu Gowon will always say. That to go on with one Nigeria, is the mission. Now, of course, after the Civil War, he was one of those officers who benefited greatly. In 1975, right, he was one of those officers who ended the Gowon administration. He was part of that coup too.
A lot of persons have complained that the tenure of former President Muhammadu Buhari brought a lot of hardship to Nigeria, but this does not mean there are no positives from his administration. Now, this circulated in the year 2017.
And I will submit myself to any. Buhari is dead and buried in a shallow grave in Saudi Arabia. Aisha Buhari was there. She came back from what they called a lesser Hajj. She was wearing black. She was mourning. If you look at the pictures that were circulated at that point in time, you will see the smug, or should I say, the forlorn faces of northern governors. A minute silence was held at the AU for a late Buhari. Even Her Britannic Majesty Queen Elizabeth II also penned a condolence message to the people of Nigeria before the cabal took over and asked her to rescind it, which she did. Buhari is dead, and I'm prepared to stake Biafra on it. If you, Dele Momodu, can go and prove to me, I'm not asking you to do anything too complex. If you can go and ask this man you call Buhari, whoever it is in Asorok, to come outside, don't do very much, address a panel of Nigerian youths, maybe 20 of them, and speak Buhari's mother tongue, which is Fulfude. I will give up Biafra, I will apologize to him, and I will submit myself to any authority on this earth to do with me as they please. There is no Buhari. Jubril was there. Jubril followed Abakari to Cuba and ran away from there and never came back. The man you have now in Asorok is from Niger Republic. His name is Yusuf Abubakar Muhammad. That's his name. Yusuf Abubakar Muhammad. Even Shekau knows who he is personally and was mentioning his name as well. It is not Buhari.
So if this is true, who exactly are Nigerians mourning or celebrating his death today? Yes, many danced, many shared, and many did so not out of hate, but out of exhaustion. But in moments like this, we must pause. We must ask ourselves, what kind of people do we want to be? History may judge him, time may weigh his decisions, but death reminds us at the end we are all dust. Let us never forget the pain, but let us also not lose our humanity in the process. May Nigeria rise wiser, stronger, and more united than ever.
Thank you so much for watching, and please drop your contribution, drop your opinion in the comment section. Please do it constructively. You know what I mean by that. And do not forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. Like this video and also share. I'll see you in our next video.